It's Sunday, March the 9th, and it's my second shed hunt of the year. And this particular farm that I'm hunting sheds on is heavily hunted, but I enjoy getting out and finding what sheds there are to find. Majority of them being, spikes, 2-point sheds, and occasional 3-point side. My first hunt of the year was on this farm, and I of course looked at the best area and picked up 6 sheds. So we'll see what I can find this afternoon, if anything, and if I have some luck, I'll show them to you. As luck would have it, I did spy a small shed up here at the edge of the field. Looks like the squirrels have been working it over a little bit. Like I said earlier, you don't find big sheds in this farm. It's about as big as you can find. It's March the 16th. The snow's finally melted enough that I felt I could shed hunt without putting unnecessary pressure on the deer. And I've been looking for probably about an hour, and I just found my first shed and looked around beside it and saw its match. So let me go down to where they are. I've just been working out along the side of a hill here in a big brushy bedding area. Let's go check these sheds out. Looks like they're probably off of a 2-year-old deer. Come down here, show you the one. That's the first side that I saw, and a couple feet over that way is the other side. Looks like it's off a deer I know pretty well, 7-pointer. He was a 2-year-old, and it looks like he survived, and he should hit his 3rd birthday here in a little bit. But he's got another year of hunting season to pull through before he's a shooter in my book. Let's go pick these things up. It's always fun to find them. It's a light-horned shed. Definitely a 2-year-old deer. Here's the other side. There you go. I'm looking with Caleb. What do you think?
Good.
Is that pretty cool?
Yeah.
Yep, first find of the day. Let's see what else we can hunt up. It's March the 17th, and I got another shed for you. It's actually on my farm. Unfortunately, it's an old one, but nonetheless, it's a shed. I just made the peak here, and it's following a deer trail that they use a lot, going down to some big ag fields, and right at the top of the hill, where they often stage up and make sure everything's safe before they go on down over. There lays a shed, so let me show it to you. Pretty much covered in weeds or leaves, but there it is. Not a whole lot left to it, but I'll take it along home. It's still March the 17th, and just found another shed. Let me show it to you. 3-point shed. There it is. I'm pretty excited now. I just found my 14th shed of the year, and it's a good one, but I think it's been out here a couple years. Sorry about the zoom there, but I'll go show them to you. As is often the case, I find them along the edges of fields, and yeah, there's my shadow, but there it is. Yeah, it's been chewed pretty bad by the mice,
Yeah.
or the squirrels actually, but there it is. It's my 14th of the year. It's almost the end of March, and I've been shed hunting probably 3 or 4 times. So far I found 14 sheds and a couple different matches, but a lot of people ask me, where to look for sheds, and I wanted to show you a few of what I find. The first one I found is this one. It was in a Destination Food Source. I often find them there, and I found the match to it about 500 yards away. It's just a tiny little spike, and the match to it was at the edge of a field. And it's another place I often find sheds. I look in the Destination Food Sources first of all. It's the least intrusive, generally a big ag field, and I look at along field edges, along the edge of the woods where they enter into the field, and they often mill around there, and it's a great place to find sheds as well. Here's a matching set that I found this year, and it was in a bedding area of sorts, not in the bed of the deer, but I found the set probably 70 yards apart, and often deer bed down, they get up, they feed around a little bit, they browse, and in the process this deer cast its antlers, and I was fortunate enough to find them. I'll just get an assortment here of what I found and talk about them. But this antler I found in a Destination Food Source. There again, it's a great place to look for sheds, and he casted antler as he was feeding. This is one that I found between a bedding and a food source, and there again, it was probably 100 yards from the deer's area where he was bedding, and they often mill around and leave it slowly browsing as they go, and so I like to look there. This was one I found at the edge of the woods where the buck was entering into the field, and he milled around there and cast his antler. Here again, another one, the field edge. This was a field edge. And some times they drop them where there's no rhyme or reason. This was the only one I found this spring so far that was old. It's been, I don't know, maybe 3 years laid in the woods. It's all chewed up, and it was laying at the top of a hill, deep in the timber. It's not a bedding area, and really, why was it there? I don't know. But sometimes, it's like that. You find them where there's no rhyme or reason. This was one I found. In a feeding area, kind of like just like a small kill plot, if you will, and he was probably browsing around in there and cast that antler. I have a couple more yet. Once we get into the middle of March, then I do intrude into the bedding areas, and I look for sheds where the deer are bedding, and it's where I found this one. These antlers were laying about 6 feet apart, right at the either edge of the deer's bed, and whether he shook his head, jumped up, and one flew one way, one flew the other way, but they're off a 2-year-old 7-pointer. In my book, he still needs to live a couple years before being a shooter. And my best shed of the year is this one. It was one that was laying at the edge of the woods. So by far, the sheds that I found this year have been along field edges. And you watch deer enter into the field all the time. They walk into the field, they mess around, they browse at the edge before they're comfortable enough to go on into the field and expose themselves. And it's often where you can find sheds. Bedding areas often have a little better luck than I had this year. It's just this matching set, and generally I find more than what I did, but every year is different. So get out there and have fun and see what you can find. It's a rewarding hobby, and it's a great way to get some exercise and get in shape for turkey season. This shed here is the best I ever found, and surprisingly, you know, in spite of its size, I found the match to it as well. The deer scored the low 140s, and you know, in spite of the size of this thing, because it's so dark, I did not see it until I was probably, you know, within 10 yards. So keep your eyes out, and you know, stay on track when you're looking for sheds. Don't rush it. Take your time, walk slow, and make sure you're looking around as you walk, because you never know what you might stumble across. This is a shed I found in Ohio, pretty deep in the timber. I like to go out there and hunt. Sometimes I shed hunt as well, but you just never know what you'll find. Sheds like this are just downright awesome. So, and there's my pile of sheds from 2019. Most of them are small, and I generally pick cloudy days to look for them. However, I'll look for them whenever it suits me, whenever it fits into my schedule. The interesting thing is, some of these little sheds you can see from, you know, 50 yards away. I generally try to look within 20 yards, within 30 yards max, and I'm in the woods, simply because you can see them easier. And if you're looking too far away, you often seem to miss them. But nonetheless, it's amazing when you see one of these little ones from way out there, and these big sides. Sometimes you almost stumble on them before you find them.